And we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the Data Mastery Marketing Show. We appreciate everybody being here. Super special episode. We have the one and only Maxwell Finn joining us. I've been geeking out on your posts recently, all the psychology of marketing and everything else, everything from the dude selling rocks to Coca-Cola's marketing campaign, introducing the first coupon, I think was the most recent one.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you said yes and you're willing to come on the show, I was extremely excited. And I think, doesn't matter what stage you're on marketing, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're a media buyer, whether you're a business owner, it doesn't really matter. The stuff that you're talking about or that we'll talk about here today, I think can provide a lot of value to, anybody within the marketing game. Just a quick background on Max. You started your first business while you were still in college, if I'm not mistaken. Your second business that you started outside of college, you ended up with a $500,000 run rate within the first 6 months, and eventually sold that to Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is all stuff I found
accurate so far.
Okay, I was going to say this is all stuff I found between my good buddy Chat GPT and then obviously the internet. You also co-founded Quantum Media with Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, along with your current partner Jeremy Adams, running ads for major brands like 3M. And then currently, what occupies most of your time, besides the dad gang and being an awesome dad and husband, you're currently running Unicorn Innovations and Unicorn Traffic, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Perfect. And we're super lucky to have you here. I mean, you've graced the stage from what I was able to find from everything from like social media marketing world, traffic and conversion summits, ad world, affiliate world, and affiliate summit. So it's, when I say we're really lucky to have him here on the episode, I think it's, it's an understatement, frankly.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, so we can jump right in. I prefer to keep the the introductions are always interesting because it's like you hear the same thing over and over again, a different variations. Some people like spend way too long on introductions. Some people keep it pretty concise. It's part of me is just like you can go look it up. If like judge the content by the content, and then if you care, you can go look it up after the fact or while you're listening. But it's yeah, let's dive in. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, I mean, what got you so interested in this psychology? I mean, you've been doing digital marketing for well over 10 years now. I mean, what got you so interested, or what piques your interest on the psychology behind it all, not just the ads itself, but how the brain works, or what got you into this?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really interested in the underlying, like, I think people in our space take for granted, and when I say the space, I mean the marketing world, specifically the direct response advertising world, take for granted what's actually happening every day when they run ads. Like we get very disconnected, and you look at Facebook Ads Manager or Google Ads or TikTok, whatever it is, you're logging into your portal and you're seeing these numbers, and you see 500,000 impressions, and you see 200 sales today, whatever the number is. And it's like, it's easy to forget that you did some stuff over here. You created an image, a video, a script, copy, you publish it on this platform. It showed up on somebody else's phone in a different state, potentially a different country. They were on that device, get photos of their friends or be entertained by some, car chase video or whatever. And they saw what you created, and what you created was so effective and so persuasive that it convinced them to click it, go to this other place, and then from there, take their wallet out of their pocket, take their credit card out, type in their credit card information, and send you money. It's like you become so disassociated with it, and it's so repetitive, and so the people kind of forget like what's actually happening. And to me, it's always been like I've never forgotten about that. No matter how much we've scaled different businesses and different accounts, whether it's one customer a day or 10,000 customers a day, like it's still these individuals. And so that's always like really, really blown me away that you have the power. It's almost like magic, right? With words to get somebody to do something they weren't planning on doing. And
yeah, you almost forget that there's a human being behind that conversion. All you see is, hey, 20
Correct.
Conversions, 20 sales. Well, that's 20 human beings that actually made a decision. So with that being said, what do you feel is missing in today's, like, your average marketer that's or average business owner? what do you feel that's missing in their marketing process or client acquisition process?
I think for a lot of people, it's twofold. One, it's a lack of respect and understanding for the fundamentals, not the fundamentals of Facebook ads or TikTok ads, but the fundamentals of marketing. And then I think on the other side of it, it's a genuine lack of creativity or desire to be the person that's being the one that people are copying as opposed to copying, right? Those two things. And so we can start with the marketing fundamentals. Like, for a long time, you've been able to be very, very effective as a marketer in our world without really being a great marketer. Like, you've been able to make a lot of money because you understand how to kind of arbitrage these platforms, right? Google ads back in the day, there was arbitrage opportunities. Facebook ads back in the day, there were arbitrage opportunities just because there are inefficiencies, right? And the technology, there were these loopholes, and there was things that if I, did things exactly in this sequence, this way, I could have a pretty mediocre product and mediocre creative and mediocre everything, but make money. And so I think that made a lot of people really lazy, and a lot of marketers and advertisers became button pushers, right? And then that's what they are. Like, what a lot of people in our space do on a daily basis is they open their ad account, they, for their clients or for their own businesses, they make some tweaks, they press some buttons, they turn this thing off, turn that thing on, and they go to Foreplay, or they go to Callow Data, or they go to these different places where you can spy on the competition and you can see what products are hot. And then you're like, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to do that. It's reactive, and it's just, I'm not going to come up with my own ideas. I'm just going to copy what the number one person's doing. I'm going to copy what the number one, the number two, number third person's doing. We're number 20. And like, that mindset is just, you're always going to be number 20. You're always going to be number 100. If you're always just following, if you're always just doing what other people are doing. And so that's kind of blended the second point and the first point. But really, if that's what you're doing, you're missing what makes a marketer truly great, which is understanding the why. There's a lot of marketers who are just, they understand the what. Like, this is what I do. This is how the platforms work. This is how I create an ad, but not like, why does this ad work? Like, why does saying this word versus this word make somebody do something? Why does this video versus this video make that person do something? And they never go that deep. They never really understand what's happening behind this, right? Like, what's happening in your skull, what's happening in the brain, chemically, just psychologically. And a lot of it's not like crazy complicated either. It's if I can study, even spend a little bit of time understanding neuroscience and behavioral economics and consumer psychology and these categories that have massive potential to drive persuasion. It doesn't matter what happens on the ad channels. It doesn't matter what happens with these spy tools, or like, nothing matters, because the way brains work are the way brains work. Right. Like the way my brain, like it's not like, that's what's like what TikTok, and I will go, and then feel free when I do interviews, like, I just go, right. So feel free to cut me off.
They hear me talking all the time. No, please keep going.
So like what TikTok and, the companies behind Candy Crush and all these companies have figured out over the last, decade or so is that, and they have teams in the company that this is all they do. They have like neuroscience. They have people that just like, this is their PhDs that understand this stuff. They understand and they know that our brains are still operating at almost an identical level as they were when we were cavemen. Like, the way our brains work, it takes a long time for evolution to happen. It takes a long time for biology to change and evolve, right? It's a long, long period of time. But technology is moving really, really fast. And so like a TikTok and a Candy Crush, I figured out, hey, I can just hack your brain. Right? Like, most of the decisions you make are made completely subconsciously. They're made on the autopilot part of your brain. They're made using heuristics, right? Just kind of mental models and rules, because it's a law of least mental effort. Your brain doesn't want to exert a lot of energy, so it's going to take shortcuts wherever it can. And we can talk about all kinds of stories and examples that show this. And so if I did TikTok in the algorithm, I figured out like I can just press these buttons, not this part, not the prefrontal cortex, not where like the logic's happening, but like down here, like the brainstem, the most primordial part of the brain. I can just talk to that. I'm going to bypass all the logic, all that stuff, and just talk to that, because we're still operating like we were, thousands, tens of thousands of years ago, right? Where, you go even further back, right, to Homo sapiens and before that, right? What was the species before Homo sapiens, right? You keep going further and further back. It's like our brains quickly to decide whether that sound in the bush was going to kill us or whether it's food. Like, is that a lion or is it a bunny, right? We had to figure out all these things, and we had to react really quickly because it meant we either die or we live, right? We had to have things like dopamine that motivated us back when we were all just in Africa sitting in a cave. We needed these neurotransmitters to motivate the few groups of men and women to say, like, I'm going to go walk that way. Like, I'm just going to go explore, even though it's safe here. I have no idea what's down there. I'm just going to start walking. Right. And like the brain needed to operate in a way to like push us and make us survive and thrive and stuff. And the way that worked back then, still basically the way our brains work today. We're just driven by dopamine. We're driven by these neurotransmitters, and they're not always in our best interest. And so again, marketers understand that. These people that make mobile apps understand that. People that make these technology understand that, the great ones, and they're just speaking to that. They know the buttons to push. They know the tricks to use. They know the dials to turn. And they know if I say this word versus this word, if I use this color versus this color, or I put this price over here and make this price over here, if I can, like, they know all these things. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're running a billboard ad or a Facebook ad or a TV ad or ChatGPT ads in 5 years, whatever it is, like, it's going to work, because the way that people make decisions and do things is going to be the same in 5 years and 50 years, 500 years, 5,000 years. It's not going to change.
Wow, great answer. I think you just answered like the first kind of 6 questions I had teed up there, all in one fell swoop. But yeah, I mean, it's just basically all about that feel good response, right? If the client sees this ad or sees these colors, are they going to get that dopamine kick, not the logical part of the brain, but that dopamine kick from the back of the brain, so they feel good and feel comfortable, like you said before, breaking out that credit card, breaking out that, and actually giving our potential clients their trust and their money, and moving forward. So that brings up a point then. Where do you personally draw the line between like marketing and manipulation, or is there even a line there? From I guess from even like an ethical standpoint.
I mean, if you look at guys like Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's nephew, like there's not much of it, right? He pioneered public relations and marketing and so many things. The way I look at it, like whether you're talking about propaganda, manipulation, marketing, any of these terms, they're all the same thing. It's how is it being used? Right? Mm-hmm. Is it being used to, if you're, Joseph Goebbels, and you're using marketing to persuade people to do horrific, terrible things and to fight a world war, ethically bad, right? It's in this camp over here. It's interesting, like the feedback I get on a lot of my content that I've been putting out lately on the psychology has been interesting, because it's clearly like there's a delineation between the audiences. There's people that are reading the content and they're seeing because it's just interesting stories, and they're like, very negative about marketing. They're like, this is the marketing's evil, and like this is proof that it's terrible and stuff. And there's people on the other side that are actually business owners and marketing entrepreneurs, like, this is great, this is so insightful and stuff. So again, I think it's where you end up on the side of the coin. But if you're using these tools and these mechanisms and these strategies and approaches to sell more of a product or service that helps people, I don't view that in any capacity as bad. Like it's, if you're using it to force somebody into a trial of a supplement that doesn't work, and it's basically just a bunch of powdered sugar in it, and you're telling people it's going to help you lose 50 pounds in 3 months, bad, right? If you're like, big pharma, or your, medical facilities or things, and you're using these tactics to push a experimental drug or something on somebody that it's not in their best interest, like, not great, right? Because you're leveraging there's bias right out of the gate. If you're an authority figure, it's there's a lot of stuff you can do there. And so I think there's people, whether it's politics, whether it's social issues, that use these tactics to push things that aren't in people's best interest. But in our world, it's like,
it all ties to what the value of the product that you're selling. Like you're saying, if you're selling a weight loss supplement that's just a bunch of sugar that's not going to work, then that's manipulation. But if your product actually works and will actually provide value to that consumer's or that customer's lifestyle or life, or will actually help them lose weight, then that's marketing. That's a good value add, or a good way of marketing to that person. So yeah, really, I guess it just all ties back to the end result of that, quote unquote campaign. Is it going to add value to the person that, we triggered the dopamine with, and they purchased the product, or they followed our suggestion, or are we, kind of what path are we leading them down as a marketer?
Yeah. And the other thing too is, like, this is not the scale that this is being used at by, technology companies and Amazon, like, retailers like Walmart, like they all have teams and teams and teams of people that all day long, all they're doing is running social experiments. Like that's all, like, Meta, these companies, when you log into your app, like, even, Netflix ran, has run so many experiences to increase watch times and increase retention and things. Right. And, like, for example, one of the things they started doing a few years ago was showing, different cover photos on every show and movie, and just running lots and lots of A/B tests to see which one's going to watch more. Right. So, and it worked really, really well for them. So all these companies are running experiments. They're seeing, what color can I use here? What word can I use to get you to stay longer, to get you to do things longer? And so this is happening at such, like, a global scale already, that, like, if a business selling hats that's doing $5 million a year to make their marketing a little more effective, to sell some more people, like, a great, amazing hat, like, in the scheme of things, even if you think that's, like, you're using magic to get somebody to do something, it's unethical. Like, is buying a hat really that bad compared to what's happening out there?
Yeah. Well, and again, as long as it's a good, we were just talking about those melon hats. If people are spending $70 on a hat, but it's a hat that they're going to have forever, it's a quality hat that they can get wet, they don't get the sweat marks in, and all those additional benefits. Like, I have to agree with you where, it's a valuable product that will potentially save people, so they don't have to spend $30 on a hat 5 times a year. You can buy one hat and have it for the rest of the year. Then, is that manipulation, or is that just promoting your product effectively and, adding value to somebody's,
and I will
somebody's life?
Yeah. And the other thing too, like, two other things. One is, at the end of the day, people have free will, right? So this, like, what we're talking about here today isn't like a Jedi mind trick where, like, I can literally, with words like guaranteed, make you do something, where I'm, like, literally hacking you and controlling your body to press the buy button, right? It's like, at the end of the day, adults still need to, be responsible for their decisions, right? You still decide.
You don't have a chip inserted in their brain.
Yeah, it's not that far off, but that's one thing. It's just, like, people have free will, and on top of that, like, you can also master all of this, but if you're, like, it's not going to fix a really, really bad product nobody wants. Like, it's still really hard to sell. It doesn't just guarantee that because these tricks. Like, you can have the worst offer, the worst product, bad reviews, everything. People are going to buy it. Right? Most people, even with great marketing, understanding psychology, are still going to do research. They're still going to do their homework. You're going to get, more impulse buys, but it's not every single person just, like, buy. Like, that person framed it differently and really used, the better social proof and did all these things. I'm just going to buy instantly. It's like, it just makes it more effective.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you see as some kind of current trends in the marketing world right now, in terms of, like, short form content, long form content, storytelling content? Does that really differ between brand and products, or, what do you typically lean towards?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trends happening right now. I think one of the biggest, if you're getting kind of a little more technical, that can kind of lead into something a little broader, like on Meta, you're seeing a lot of success with partnership ads, kind of whitelisting creators where you're working with, influencers, real customers, and actually getting them to create ads for you and running from their page, because it's like influence hijacking, right? It's like you're piggybacking. Hijacking is actually a really negative word. Piggybacking, right? We'll call it piggybacking. Where you're jumping on their authority, their influence, and you're taking that kind of credibility and influencing in your brand. And that kind of goes beyond that, where that's a more tactical strategy on Meta ads, and you can do Spark ads on TikTok and other channels. But beyond that, like a continued move towards, you need more trust, you need more credibility, you need more authority. Customers are getting more skeptical. They have more resources to figure out whether something's crap or good. I think the bar to purchase is increasing for a lot of people. And then on top of that, you add in, a lot of kind of shaky stuff economically happening right now, where consumer bite, like their belts are tightening, spending's going down, sentiment's going down, and that means it's going to be harder, right? So you kind of combine those two factors hitting at once, it's a lot harder to get that person to pull the trigger and make a purchase decision.
Yeah, that's what we always tell our clients. Like you're literally your best marketing asset is that client testimonial. Like, right, you should think your business is awesome, your product is awesome. That's why you either own it or you're representing it and working for that brand. But those video testimonials, and they don't have to be fancy, but just somebody talking that's already engaged with your brand, giving you their trust and the opportunity to earn it. In my opinion, those are some of the best marketing assets a business can have, is those online reviews, the testimonial videos, somebody that said, hey, yes, I purchased this product and now I'm willing to put my face on camera and talk positively about it. And I think that's one of the the best things that you can be doing out there, whether it's a co-branding, like you're saying, having them run it from their account, or even just leveraging those video testimonials. I think that's one thing that a lot of businesses seem to miss out on. They just want to cram a new graphic, a new AI bot video, or something, just throwing up, basically is what I call it, just throwing up about all the benefits of their brand. It's just like, hey, find somebody that you've already earned their trust, and ask them to spend a couple minutes talking about your brand. What was the experience like? What made them decide to use your brand versus 6 of your other competition? That type of stuff. It goes I feel like it goes a lot farther nowadays in today's marketing world, with, like you said, with everybody having so many options, and nobody's reinventing the wheel nowadays. It's every product out there is just a spin-off or a remake of a previous product. It's like it's like in the music business. Why make a new hit when I can just go remake a hit from the 80s or 90s and just, put a different spin on it, throw a different singer out there, and, make a bunch of money.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. Just one thing I'll say to that is, like, that also goes back to the points earlier about just, where the difference in marketing is, why most people aren't great at marketing and understanding the fundamentals and putting the effort in being creative. On top of that, like, if your product just isn't good, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it's your point. It's like, if you're copying, if your entire business model is, we're going to take somebody else's product that's really, really great and basically just do another version of it, maybe charge a little less or do a different design, like, that's doesn't matter. You could have the best, you could have Ogilvy coming back from the dead to write copy for you. It's not going to do anything for you, right? So you look at, like, my buddies Aaron and Nick over at Breeze, right? It's a beverage brand that's got lion's mane in it and THC and a bunch of other, like, great ingredients. And they're kind of going this anti-alcohol angle, which is a mega trend that's happening with younger people. Mm-hmm. They're not drinking, but they still want to have a social drink and stuff. Like, they entered a very, very tough market. And so right out of the gate, that's great, because a lot of people don't enter that market. Like, beverages are expensive to ship. Like, there's all this complication that comes with logistically. So already out of the gate, most people aren't entering that market because it's a high barrier to entry. So they entered a tough market. They have a real unique, novel concept, great packaging, great branding. The product itself is amazing. The fulfillment's amazing, and they've exploded. They're doing millions and millions of dollars a month. and they're like 18 months old as a company. And again, like they could actually have like mediocre marketing and it would still do really well. That's one trend I've seen my entire career. I've been doing this 15 years, and I've looked at a lot of ad accounts of multi-billion-dollar companies and startups that do zero revenue. I have never looked at an ad account and seen shitty product, terrible offer, bad business, great advertiser running stuff, and the ad account's crushing it. I have seen many, many times ad accounts where it's a disaster. Whoever's running it's the founder, it's somebody, everything's being done wrong, like literally everything. But the product is so good, the brand, everything is so good and so cool and so unique that it's working. I've seen that many, many times. I've never seen the other. And so I should tell you how important having a great product and a great business is. Because again, marketing is the fuel. If you don't have anything to put fuel into, you don't have a rocket ship, you don't have a race car, it doesn't matter. It's just a liquid. It does nothing, right? It'll do nothing for you. So it needs something you need something great to put the fuel into. Otherwise you're not going to get anything out of it.
Great. Yes, I completely agree. I mean, it's you can't put jet fuel in a Honda Civic and expect it to perform like a Ferrari or like a jet, right? It just doesn't work like that. So where do you learn all this stuff? Like I know you had me reading that alchemy book, which I'm almost done with. I listened to that in my sauna, but yeah, that's a phenomenal book. Definitely opens your eyes to. I love how he talks about how like marketing is still the one true kind of profession that you can think outside the box and get creative. That it's not just all about spreadsheets and line items, so to speak. Like you have to. Not necessarily hack the brain, but you can still get creative and think outside the box and really use your brain, I guess. But besides the alchemy book, any other books that you recommend that have been your favorite books on marketing psychology or YouTube channels or anything like that you can recommend to the viewers?
I mean, there's so many. I mean, anything that Daniel Kahneman wrote before he passed. Thinking Fast and Slow is a must read. Richard Shotton, Illusion of Choice, Choice Factory. Like he's great. Richard Thaler, Misbehaving. There's a lot of great. Basically, any like Nobel Prize winning like behavior like an economist, like Kahneman. Anybody that's in the neuroscience, consumer psychology, like ballpark that does research on the topic. They'll either have research they've written, which I read a lot of that, which can be a little dry and dense, but it's really fascinating. But most of them publish, right? Most of them have books. So those are a few of the guys. There's a book, trying to blank on the author of the book, but it's called The Molecule of More. It's a great book it's all about dopamine, and it is eye-opening when you understand like the reason we make most of our decisions, especially the impulsive and the irrational and illogical ones, is because of dopamine, right? It's just a neurotransmitter that feeds on more. It's never content. So that's why it's like the feeling you get when you're about to buy a new car or about to buy a new whatever is so great. And then when you have the thing, it's like, this is cool, right? It's because like dopamine's job is to get you from A to B. And once you get to B, it has no more job to do. Like it did its job. And so it's going to stop flooding you with that good feeling. And now it's going to be say, well, you're not happy. So you need the next thing. It's like we're literally like the way our brain works is to never be content because again, it was a survival mechanism. It was back when we were living in the wild and had to just every decision was life or death. We needed our brain to basically like, we weren't smart enough to do that on our own. Our brain needed to just say like, yes, no, do this, don't do that, right? Go here, don't go here. And we'll just make you feel a certain way to kind of nudge you that direction. So yeah, Molecule More is a great book.
I'll have to check that one out next.
Yeah. I mean, those are ones to start with. Again, like there's also just a lot of great people on social media that talk about this stuff. And what's cool too is like a lot of the algorithms, especially on like YouTube, for example, are so good and so fast that as soon as you watch one, you'll get fed. I noticed even on my end, the more I've started to talk about this stuff and create content around it, I'm now seeing other big accounts that are talking about similar things, and it's like I'm getting ideas. Oh, that's a cool story. I didn't think about that one. Diving deep into it. But yeah, it's there's no shortage of content. That's the thing. It's
all out there. You just got to go find it. Yeah. Since I've started really engaging with your post and swiping, through the carousel ads, like I saw one from some other Instagram channel today about the WhatsApp, how they zero marketing, they founded it after they didn't get their job at Facebook. They did zero marketing with it. And then they end up selling it to Facebook, a few years later for $19 billion or whatever it is. But we'll end with this. So out of all the campaigns that you've researched and looked at and analyzed over, our lifetime, so to speak, what's like the one campaign that you're like, God, I wish I was the one that made that one. I wish I could take credit for that. Whether it's the Wawa story, honestly, the guy selling rocks, I think, is a kick-ass story. But what's the one that you just think is absolutely genius that you wish you would have thought of, or wish you could, get credit for?
It's like an impossible question, because we can talk about a few things, but like there's different levels, right? There's people that came up with campaigns, especially when you go back to Edward Bernays and these Laskin and stuff, like with the orange juice, like where these campaigns they developed it wasn't just like selling a product. Like they changed, for better or for worse, the behavior of 100+ million people, right? And got them to do certain things, right? You look like orange juice and stuff. It's
yeah, that was an interesting post.
Getting Americans to, not just a few people, like Americans, to start doing something that they weren't doing, and then to continue it for generations, and then from that, there are multiple billion-dollar companies in that space. And so there's those types of campaigns that influenced society and changed society, and then built industries. And then there's, specific campaigns. There's, just do it, right? There are these just genius inventions, these slogans, these single ideas that evolve into, these massive brands. The post I talked about yesterday, Asa Candler, coming up with the idea of a coupon for a free drink. Like those things are fascinating to me, because it's like these are concepts that everyone they're so obvious now, but like all these obvious ideas we have, somebody at one point was like, we're not doing this yesterday, we're going to do this tomorrow. Like somebody came up with that idea. Like to come up with the idea, it's hey, there's this really high friction, a lot of competition. The hardest thing is to convince somebody to buy my product because they never tried it before, and it's consumable. It's like, aha, I'm going to create this little piece of paper that says you can use this to get a free drink. And it's like, it's so brilliant. It's so simple, but at the time it wasn't simple. At the time it was like a revolutionary idea, and that shit blows my mind. It's like trying to think of what can be, similar at a similar level, like created today.
What I love is that person who is willing to take the risk too, right? Because when he was like, hey, that for that Coca-Cola story, hey, let's come up with this coupon, he probably had 100 people saying, you're batshit crazy, right? Like it's never going to work. Yeah, it's never going to work. This is stupid. Don't do it. And he's just like, no, trust me, this is going to work. And, put somebody basically put their reputation on the line, put their reputation on the line to see it go through. And now it's, like you said, coupons or orange juice. I got a container of orange juice in my fridge right now. And, my kids drink orange juice every morning with breakfast. And it literally all ties, I had no idea, but it all ties back to some marketing campaign when, these orange growers had excess oranges that they had to find something to do with. And now we drink orange juice every morning for breakfast. It's crazy, but somebody had to, take that risk, put themselves out on the limb, and be willing to stand behind their beliefs, which I think is just remarkable and fascinating all in itself.
Yeah, and then there's so many of these kind of massive, you look at the Apple 1984 commercial and stuff. Like there's so many kind of iconic, legendary campaigns that just had an outsized impact, not just on performance, but on like generations. Like it kind of ripples. Like most 99.99% of everything that everyone creates, an ad, a social post, whatever it might be, is forgotten in seconds. And then there's these creations that didn't just resonate for a month or a year, but for decades, and help build the foundation of these massive iconic brands. And so to me, that's always really, really fascinating, just the power of that, and just one idea, right? One great creative idea. And that's kind of coming full circle to the beginning of our chat today. If you're always copying somebody, if you're always going on to Foreplay or these sites and just, what is the other supplement greens company? What's AG1 doing? Oh, and us for 7 looks like this. I'm going to do that and just plug in our words. Like, if that's your model, you are never going to have a 1984. You're never going to have a Just Do It. You're never going to have a Geico Gecko. You're never going to have that thing, right? And so, there's no guarantee that if you are always innovating, you're going to have that, but at least you take the swings. If you take enough swings, you're going to find something. And again, maybe that thing isn't a world round ad that lasts for decades, but it's still almost guaranteed to be better than just copying somebody and just like plug and play. I'm just going to take this template, throw my words in there, and hope it does as well as the other person.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to, whether you're the marketer or the brand owner or whatever it is, you have to be able to take some risk and put yourself out there, and accept a little bit of failure to get to that end result that you're looking for.
I will say, just before we do wrap here, like, I will say, those are big examples, but I'm also just equally as fascinated and impressed by small little things. Like, a guy like Rory who wrote Alchemy will talk about either in his books or just on social. He tweets a lot and he's great. Probably one of the highlights of my career. Most people, it's like if they got to meet LeBron James or take a picture with Michael Jordan, like that would be the highlight. But like for me, it was like Rory Sutherland following me on X was like the highlight. Like,
you've arrived.
Yeah, that's how much of a nerd I am. But like all the things that he talks about are almost more exciting to me, impressive, because they're also directly actionable. It's like hard to say, well, this Just Do It. These are so iconic and amazing, great, but like, how do I? It's so massive. It's like, how do I apply that? Right? You even replicate that? It's almost impossible. But stuff like Rory would talk about, it's just like so tactical and so applicable to anybody's marketing. So, for example, it's like he had a client that was selling wine, and they were having issues getting people to spend more money and increase average order value. And what he realized is, hey, well, when people go to your website and go to your collections, it's sorted from low to high price. And so the first price somebody's seeing is the lowest. Everything beyond it looks more expensive, right? And just mentally, it's easy. It's like when they're on deck circle baseball, you're swinging a weighted bat. So when you get up to the plate, it feels a lot lighter. Your swing speed increases, right? It's like it works better, going that way, because everything, if you start high and go low, then every price seems like a great deal, even though it might be more. So something as simple as just like switching that. But then on top of that, what he also said is, well, the average wine buyer knows nothing about wine, right? So the average person, when they buy wine, it's usually for like a social gathering. It's going to a party, I'm gonna pick a bottle of wine. And the thought process, the buying procedure they have is, what's the kind of cheapest bottle? What's the most expensive bottle? I'm gonna buy something in the middle, because you don't want to show up to the party with the cheapest shit wine, but you're obviously not going to drop. You're not going to buy a $500 bottle of wine, so you end up in the middle.
For a bunch of people you don't know.
Yeah, you end up in the middle, right? That's almost everyone says, what's kind of an average price bottle of wine? So what he figured is, okay, well, people are doing that math. They see the most expensive, they see the cheapest. Let's add a really, really, really expensive bottle of wine right out of the gate. So now, if the cheapest bottle is 10, the most expensive bottle is 100, you end somewhere like 55 or so in kind of the middle. And but now if I add a $200 bottle of wine, now it's 10 to 200. So just based on the heuristics people use and the basic math, that average bottle, what seems like an average price, just increased just by adding kind of a decoy product to your list. And so stuff like that is always fascinating to me. Stuff like, you have these companies overcomplicate things. They want to invest big, like, I forget the train company in Europe.
I was just gonna bring up that story where they're like, oh, we got to spend $21 billion or whatever it was to adjust the rails and do all this stuff, and it's going to take 10 years. And his solution was, let's just shorten the time they actually have to wait for the train, and make that, basically buy a ticket that you can use at any time versus having to just show up early for that one.
Make the experience invest a fraction out to make the train ride better if it's a long train ride. Add the times when it's going to be the next train's arriving, like little things. Disney mastered this. Like, people hate waiting when it feels like they're waiting, right? People don't mind like waiting in a line when they don't feel like it could be both lines could be 20 minutes, but one could be you walking basically straight nonstop for 20 minutes to get to the ride. It doesn't feel like 20 minutes because you were moving, you were going, you're looking at things. The other, even if it was 10 minutes, but you're in a gridlock the whole time, there's nothing to look at, feels really long. This happened to us this weekend. We went to the new Universal Park, and there's one ride that it's the sickest ride in the park. It's in this castle, one of the best queues I've ever been in, one of the best lines I've been in. It was a solid like 15 minutes. There was no line because it's a preview day, but it was like 15 minutes from the entrance to the castle to actually getting on the ride. But it was epic, and it felt like 4 minutes. And then we went on the ride right after. That was like similar wait time, but like it was just like gross. It was just like this, right? And it sucked. I was like, this right? But it's all just like it's the science of just making the line not feel like a line, making it actually intentionally lengthier walk wise because more people are moving, right? There's all this psychology, but adding mirrors. Roy talks about this a lot. Like, just adding mirrors places where there's lots of waits decreases the perceived wait time because people like looking at themselves, right? People will just find themselves looking at the mirror and stuff. There's lots of little things you can do that are much, much cheaper, quicker fixes, but they're outside the box, not the conventional fix. Everyone goes right towards like, we need to rebuild the entire thing. We need to invest all this money to create something new. Could be no, we just need to make the wait time feel a little better, make it feel a little
just improve the customer experience, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just make it suck a little less, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, I really appreciate your time. I think this has been immensely valuable. I feel like we could probably sit here for the next 3 to 4 hours and talk about, marketing and psychology and all this stuff. Maybe we'll, in the months to come, we'll have you back as a guest on another episode in the future. But greatly appreciate your time. I know our viewers, I got a lot out of it, so I know our viewers got a lot out of it. So appreciate your time, and thank you everybody for watching the show. We appreciate it. Feel free to comment if you have any questions. I'll drop Max's social links, Instagram, YouTube channel, and all that fun stuff in the posts all over social media and on YouTube, so you can easily connect with him. And I really highly recommend, following him on Instagram, especially those posts between the Wawa story, the Rock story, the Coca-Cola story. I've scrolled through social media and watched lacrosse highlights pretty much as my life. And you're one of the few accounts now that I actually stop and read all, 5 or 6 of the carousels. So it's very valuable. It seems like it takes a lot of time for you to put that together. So greatly appreciate it. And appreciate your time. Any last words or?
No, this is a blast. Happy to come back. There's a lot more to talk about. So we'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate everybody's time. We'll talk to everybody soon, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.